Welcome to episode 62 of Sport SA Daily Diary. Today we're chatting to South African triathlete Richard Murray. Morning, Richard. How are you doing today, mate?
No, not too bad, not too bad. Always happy on a rest day, so you got me on a good one.
Oh, that's lucky. Nice one. I see you've got a nice picture of your wife in the background. Congratulations on being newly married.
Thank you. Yeah, we got married. We actually just thought, we're like, what day did we get married again? We just thought yesterday. And we got married on the 21st 2 months ago, or just under 2 months ago. So yeah.
Just before lockdown, did you manage to get a honeymoon in?
No, we didn't get a honeymoon. My folks couldn't come to the wedding either because it's South African, you couldn't travel out. So literally like a week before we got married, my folks and them were going to come over the side, and my brother and them and stuff. So unfortunately, my wife's mother's really ill, so she's got cancer, and so she doesn't have much time left. So we kind of got married this side in the midterm, end of the year. We get married in South Africa, and so my brothers and them are all going to come over, and then they literally Corona happened, and they've got locked down as well. So I kind of got married just with my wife's side of the family. So that was interesting 2 months ago, but now Corona's still continuing. So before I left to come to the Netherlands, I didn't know that it was going to escalate so quickly. So otherwise I would have been stuck in South Africa and not got married. I've been in a 3-bedroom house by myself completely for a couple months, which
that wouldn't have been no fun. So a good thing that you got over there.
Yeah, that's quite a blessing in disguise.
Is the plan to do 6 months either side, sort of get the best of both summers? Yeah,
so that's more or less the last 10 years of my life. I haven't spent a winter in South Africa since 2009, I think. I think the earliest I've been to South Africa has been about September side that I come back from Europe from European summer. And I usually head through the first races start in March, and we're on training camps and things the rest of the year. So kind of not somewhere from longer than 2 months at a time, anywhere in the year, apart from when we come to South Africa or we come to the Netherlands. So the rest of the time, this is the longest I've been in the same place for more than the last 10 years. So,
sure. Well, let's hope it doesn't have to last too much longer. And tell me, do you guys, is there a bit of competition between the two of you? Do you race each other? And if so, who wins?
Then I race Rachel. Recently, she kind of compares herself to me a little bit, and we kind of train well together. I kind of feed off not doing a lot of speed work, so I can actually do more tempo stuff. And for her, that's almost her race pace, my tempo a little bit. So we kind of work pretty well together. My coach said we're quite lucky because my coach doesn't coach many males; he coaches a lot of females. And so he said, luckily, I'm direction of coaching a female, which is wonderful from him. It works pretty well, and we keep each other honest every day. So we train together. I don't think we probably spend the most amount of time you can imagine together. So it's like, we had fast forward relationship within 2 years. We had spent literally every day together. We started to get to know each other. So after 8 odd years or 7 years together now, we know each other pretty well.
Oh, I would imagine so. Richard, let's take you back a bit. Early days, school days, did you always have an interest in the 3 different sports, or were you playing rugby or football? Or
I played in primary school. I played rugby, and I was flank. I don't think I'll ever forget that. I was a bit aggressive, so I kind of I was probably too aggressive, so that was my problem with rugby. I kind of more wanted to fight than actually play rugby, and I think that didn't bode with the rugby thing too well. I was fighting with teammates and fighting with the other guys, and it was a bit nasty, but I always wanted to be like one of the fast guys. And they're like, "Oh no, we put you in the scrum." And I was like, "Come on, just put me somewhere where I can do some work, And now it's in the scrum. And I didn't, for me, I was kind of like, well, rugby I enjoyed it, but I was like, nah. And I was playing cricket as well. So I played first team cricket and hockey when I was going through primary school and high school. And then the hockey kind of disappeared a bit, and the rugby disappeared when I finished primary school, and I was running, so I was kind of enjoying running, and I was like, okay, cool, track and field, 800, 1500, that's my vibe. And I went to Fairmont High School. I ran, I think my first, I ran 15 flat for 5K when I was 13. when I was 13 on. So my record still stands at Fairmont High School for, I think, 15:03 or something for 5K on the grass track.
Jeepers, that's quick.
I think we ran barefoot as well on the grass track. So yeah, running was my big thing. I went to national, I went to essays in Bloemfontein when I was so I went to Paul Roos first for 2 years. Because it was like this, the sports school to go to. If you're a top sporting person in the Western Cape, you go to Paul Roos. And so I was on a farm, and we thought, okay, well, Paul Roos it is. There's only 2 English classes per grade type of thing, so I was like in the minority, something proper. Yeah, it was a great place to do sports, and you're respected as a sportsman, and that helps a lot when you want to progress. And so I went to essays, and I ran 800 meters, and I ran 1500 meters at SA champs, and I got completely annihilated on the track there. And that was kind of the end of my track days a little bit. I think I was 15. I was 15 odd, and I ran 3:59 for the 1500, and I didn't make the final. So I ran 3:59, 15 years old, didn't make the final. And I was like, man, I thought this was my thing. I was gonna be a track athlete. And so then I kind of put that, the boys, I think they ran 3:51 that year for under 15, which is they ran faster than the under 19s because there was no control. It was literally just
go
full gas from the start, and under 19s was tactical or whatever, under 18s. And so I was doing mountain biking at the same time as well. So I was racing, I was national champion for mountain biking for when I was sub-junior, I think it was sub-junior. And so I would race the national series in Pietermaritzburg and in the Western Cape and stuff. And I was national champion with Rock Cruiser. The day of Rock Cruiser and I used to like race each other really closely. And Barry Stunder was like taking the cake there at that time of the year, that time of my career. And then I thought, okay, mountain biking, this is going to be my thing. I'm going to be a professional UCI mountain biker. And so the running, I was still doing running, and I did mountain biking, and I didn't have any real sponsor. I had like a bike shop, though. Chris Willems, so there was a bike shop was sponsoring me. Not Chris Willems, Willie Engelbrecht. It was like a big bike shop there, and I was riding on Giant and everything, and I was enjoying the road cycling and mountain biking, and I was kind of, maybe cycling is going to be my thing. And then I never really got there in cycling. I mean, I was really good mountain biking, but I didn't have a real mountain bike coach. I was kind of winging things. This weekend there's like a motocross enduro race, and I was doing motocross as well at the time because my dad does enduros, and he did the Dakar Rally and did the Roof of Africa and all these motocross races. And so I was doing that as well. So I was kind of like juggling everything and some triathlon here and there. So I did a triathlon when I was 11 or 12, my first one. And so I was dabbling in triathlon, but my swimming was used like, it was nowhere. I was a duathlete, and when I got to finish high school, so I was thinking, okay, well, running and cycling, I'm kind of good at both of those. I'm pretty like good level. I should do duathlon. Okay, cool, duathlon it is. So then I went to duathlon, and I got 2 world titles as a junior. I thought, yes, man, this is my thing. I'm world champion as a junior going through high school. I thought duathlon's where it's at, And then I checked and I saw duathlon's got the future of duathlon was like, there's no Olympics, and there's, world champs, that's it. And that's as far as you can go. And so I thought, well, that's not maybe not the best thing to get into as a pro for duathlon. So someone told me, Richard, if you learn to swim, you can become a triathlete. And I thought, geez, okay, well, how long is that going to take? So they said, well, your swimming is like really bad, so it should take about 5 years. So I thought, geez, like 5 years that's a long call to learn to swim 5 years. And so I got some coaches and did some things, and triathlon then became like the new focus when I was about 20. So I went to study in Stellenbosch, just at ETA, so sports conditioning and coaching stuff. So I could learn something about sports and how to implement training and structure things and that type of stuff. And then in 2010, I decided, okay, I'm going to be a pro. I'm going to go do the triathlon thing. I'm going to go to Potchefstroom and train there at altitude, and I'm going to try and go and race internationally.
Well, it certainly took you a while to find your groove and to find your spot in triathlon. I mean, you could have been a professional in a number of sports before you found your triathlon.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing. I mean, it's like, running, like I grew up running when I was about 6, 7. I started running. And I was running almost every day. I grew up on a farm outside of Durbanville, and I was running on the gravel road barefoot every day. So I'd run 5K since I was about 10, 11 years old. I was running 5K like pretty much every day. And so that's kind of like where it all started. And we didn't have a swimming pool because we were like 25K out the city. So we had a lake down the road, and then we could go and, splash in the lake. But I didn't really have, too much introduction to swimming. So I think that's kind of how the whole progress. And then even at one stage, I wanted to become a professional motocross rider. I had like this idea, okay, maybe I'm going to go motocross. And the guys from KTM, we had this one thing, and the guy from KTM said, "Oh, don't you want to come and start the motocross thing?" And I thought, maybe I could be a professional motocross. It was kind of like, because I really, from the technical side of things, I enjoyed downhill because I did some downhill. I actually did my downhill mountain biking and four-cross biking when I was growing up as well. So I really enjoyed like technical and that type of thing. And so, kind of went from extreme sports and endurance sports to kind of having to choose one of them.
Yeah. And then, you say that you won the world champs in duathlon in 2007, 2008, and that you couldn't swim, but yet by 2010, 11 and 12, you'd already won the under 23 African champs and the elite African champs. So for someone that couldn't swim, how did you get your swimming up to such a level so quickly? Because if you're getting out of the water last, you're going to struggle quite a lot to, make it up on the bike and the run.
Yeah, I think that's been like a story of my life a little bit. I think when I won my first Olympic distance triathlon, the one in Leeds, I came out about 6th last or 5th last out of the water. So I can't say a hell of a lot has changed in the last 10 years. One thing is remained the same, as I've always had to ride myself into pieces on the first 5 minutes of the bike. That's always stayed the same. There's been I don't like find a wheel and just sit in. There's none of that. Kind of got to go as hard as humanly possible to kind of get myself into a pack. But what I did was, so I was first half coaching myself, then I looked for a coach, and then I found Lindsay Perry. So Lindsay Perry took me under his wing. And I said, okay, well, where's triathlon South Africa? It's okay, it's in Pretoria, it's by Tikkies. That's where you got to be if you want to become a triathlete. So, okay, well, I'm going to go to Tikkies. That's it, eh? And so we packed my golf up to the ceiling. Me and Vicky van der Merwe, we packed my golf full of triathlon stuff. And we're, okay, I'm going to Potchefstroom, because now we're at our first altitude camp of my life. Okay, cool, we're going to Potch. I ended up being in Potch for about 3.5 months in Potch. Yeah. Staying at I think Jean Verster or Jean Beret. I think he's a top endurance coach, and from running. And he stayed just outside of in Potchefstroom in a place, and he had an apartment there, and I stayed there. And then so I spent 3 months there, and then I ended up going to Tikkies after that, and I was with Lindsay and with Rocco de Villiers. He was coaching the swimming there at Tikkies. And that's kind of how the whole ball started rolling. And so I spent a year there, and then I decided I wanted to go overseas, and I wanted to find somewhere to train overseas as well. And I joined the Australians. The Australians were really open their programs. So they said I can join them for some swimming and for some training, and I said, okay, great. So I ended up going from there. I went to Australia, started training with the Aussies, and I was staying in someone's house as well there. And kind of learning as I was going. So it took about 2 or 3 years through different coaches and different people to learn different techniques and different ways of swimming. And we also had a high performance coach, Emma Swanwick, who came on for triathlon, and she was from the UK, and she had a lot of expertise in swimming. So she was a high performance manager, but she was also giving us some tips on the swimming side. And all of a sudden, with my technique, I changed my technique a bit, and I picked up about 2 minutes on 1,500 meters in the swim. So my first swim, I was in Bloemfontein. No, not in Bloemfontein, sorry, in Johannesburg. There was a triathlon there. And my first Olympic distance race, I did 25.5 minutes for the 1,500 meters in the swim. Yeah. And I got put like 5 or 6 odd minutes back from the front guys. And that was the day where I thought, like, gee, if I want to become I think I was like, after the finish, I just sat down, I was just crying. I was thinking, you know what? If I want to actually do triathlon, and I'm 20 years old, I'm like swimming 6 minutes behind these guys. So this is going to be a tough call. And And I had the same at World Champs that year. So I went to World Champs for triathlon that year, and I was also like 5 minutes out the water behind and almost got lapped on the bike. So I got on the bike. The guys had almost finished a full lap of the bike. Whoa. And I got on, me and Rudolf Nordia got on the bike, and him and I were riding, and we were looking back, and we could see the group catching us, the front group. So they were almost walked the lap. We were going for it. I thought, I can't get lapped out here on World Champs. So I went from winning duathlon World Champs that year to almost being lapped in triathlon. And it was in the pouring, probably the coldest triathlon we've ever done in my entire life in Canada. Like 5 degrees pouring rain, 10 degrees water and whatever. After that, I sat down, I thought, I've got to make a decision whether I can even do this. And so I literally looked at what I need to do swimming wise. I knew the running was with the top guys, all the guys that are in the picture behind you there, Alistair Brownlee, Johnny Brownlee, Mario. I raced all in the year before, or that same year in duathlon, and those guys ended up winning the triathlon. So I thought, well, I can run with these guys, and I can bike with them. If I can swim with them, I can race with them. And I had a lot of things, actually. It was kind of interesting. A lot of South Africans told me, no, don't do it. You'll never get there. Go and do Xterra, go and do mountain biking. It's not worth it for you. I heard all the stories from other people, and I just thought, like, how good it was to actually win like one of the biggest world races, and just be like,
sure.
Where are you at now?
Yeah, for sure.
It's scary how some people. I mean, I always find like there's always that bit in an athlete, if they really want to get it and they're really willing to do anything to get there, then they can actually make it happen. And that was kind of where I went through different swim coaches, and now I went to Joel Philly also went to Canadian coach. He coaches Mario and Vincent Louis now. And I spent 5 years with him, Canadian coach, and he really paved the way for me for consistency and for coaching. And so he was my first real international coach. And I think he did massive. He kind of paved the way for my sporting career.
Okay. I mean, Richard, you talk about the picture behind me. That was the London Triathlon in 2014, if I'm correct, which was one of the most amazing finishes to a triathlon ever. I've been watching the clips this morning. Chat to us a bit about that finish. I mean, after the ride and the bike and a good run, there's 7 of you racing the last kilometer. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't think I'll forget that Alistair was on the front, and I was following him, and he was putting in these massive surges. And I'd learned my lesson that if you want to win, you got to sit in until the last 300, 200 if you want to win. And you mustn't be up at the front. You got to be 1 or 2 places back, just responding to whatever's going on a little bit. And then whoever's got the sprint finish is going to be the one who wins that. Whoever's got the most grunt. And I kind of misjudged the finish a tiny bit. I kind of went at about 300 meters from the finish. And I didn't know exactly where, where's the part where I start sprinting. I hate to jinx it. Some of the times before the race, I'll do my run warm up and I look and I say, when it comes to a sprint, where am I going to stop? And I hate to think like that, because then you think, okay, where am I going to sprint? And then you end up getting lapped out or something, or you end up, then you really put yourself in a big mental hole. But I think, when Alistair started to go for it about 400, 500 meters out, he started to go for it. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to sit in here. And then I sat in, and then I started to go for it. And then the funny thing is, right before the finish, I actually make a slight dog leg because I thought that we had to go, but that was the penalty box. So they literally had these 2 parts. So it looked like we had to go right after these banners. So I kind of went right. Alistair follows me. I come back out. Alistair almost gets blocked in the barriers. Then he has to come back out. So he loses 3 places just by that dog leg that I did in the front. And then literally Mario comes past me, and I had nothing left. And Mario just keeps going. I thought, well, there's no chance of me catching that. He's on, he had the perfect time in the last 50 meters to actually 100 meters to go for it. And I thought, well, there's nothing I can humanly do here to actually pass him. And I was, giving it all the gas. And I think the thing is, if you go a little bit too early, there's no chance you'll be able to go faster again. I think that's kind of your limit.
I mean, throughout that run, if you look at the guys that were in that group, you certainly looked the most comfortable. I mean, your running style you looked very relaxed. But do you do a lot of sort of sprint training for this type of circumstance, or is it not really something you do because it doesn't really happen that often?
No, I mean, that's the interesting. I mean, I can count on my hand the amount of times I've come to a sprint finish, and I think that was the one of them. And I think for triathlon, it looks like a sprint finish, but we're actually not going that far. I mean, we're going fast, but by the time you get to the end, your legs are pretty cooked. I mean, on the bike, I mean, we went like super deep on the bike, and then on the run, we're sitting in at like 250 a K the whole time.
That's quicker.
So we're hanging on at I mean, for a 5K race, usually it's 1 in 250 flat to 248. That's kind of where the cream is. And for a 10K, then it's like 255, almost 3 minutes. That's kind of where the win comes from after 40K of biking. So it's, yeah, I think that was, I mean, there's another time where Mario pipped me in Stockholm on the top. It was like a hill climb finish. And I thought, like, power to weight for me to try and beat him on this climb. I went for it, and then he literally passed me like 2 meters before the finish. Literally on the finishing line, he passed. I thought, oh, that was one place for like 2 meters.
It's got to be gut-wrenching.
Yeah, there's a picture of us both like gritting our teeth. I'm like, wow, that was deep. And that was on a 10K, which was even more painful. And actually, Joao Pereira on the left there in Stockholm, he was actually the one surging, and he started laughing during, like, it was 2K to go, and he starts attacking, and I think, what's he doing? And then he came back, and then he starts laughing. I thought, like, I don't know how to deal with this. Like, I've never heard somebody laughing, being so in the red, and started laughing, but he was like, that's what he does. I thought, this is very interesting. But I think Johnny I listed them. They won that. I think they'd broken away or something, and they ended up winning that one. But I don't do much specific training for that. Actually, really, I mean, we do some sprints. I've got a new coach now, so I've got 2 Dutch coaches, which we moved about 2 years ago, and we do some sprints. So probably like twice a week, we do some neuromuscular sprints on the bike. We also do neuromuscular sprints. To keep things intact. I think, so they say they'd use it or lose it type thing, And luckily from from my speed days of just, running track and field and those types of things, I've still got that neuromuscular type thing, which still works for me, which is, I think luckily it's probably just a talent or something that I've been given, which is awesome. And so it's the same thing like with this past weekend, how we ran like the 5K that we ran. And I was like telling my coach, I said, like, I haven't done like any 1K repeats or anything remotely around 3 minutes a K for the last month and a half. Which I thought, like, and now we're going to go 5K all out. I thought, I don't know how that's going to go. It's, we've done some 320, some 350, 320 endurance stuff, but then that's more or less about it.
Yeah.
And 6 months of training because we haven't done any races. And I did one track race where I did 2 days before I did like a 5K track session with my father, and I ran like some 241Ks, three 241Ks.
That's incredibly quicker.
And then I kind of thought, like, I'm like, man, I can break 14. I can do that.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. I'll do that on the track. And I'd done it 2 days before, and then when the track came, I was like, the body had already had like 15 or 18 hours of training in that week. And then I just banked it out on the Friday evening. And I did that threshold swim in the morning. And then in the evening went and went for the 5K on the track, which is like 30 degrees and windy and by myself. And then I was super bleak because I couldn't go into 14. I was like, oh, I ruined that. That was a waste of time.
Brilliant. Richard, I mean, there's a lot of brilliant men competitors on the circuit at the moment. I mean, the Brownlee brothers, I mean, all the guys in the photo there. If you had to make up a triathlete, like the perfect triathlete, from the swim to the cycle to the run, whose bit would you take of each? So like Alistair's run or someone's swim or whatever.
Well, I would probably take it's a bit of an interesting one. So, I mean, Alistair is Olympic champion, dual Olympic champion. He's got the swim, he can ride super hard, and when it comes to pay for the run, he can run 20. He ran in the Olympics, he ran 29 flat for a 10K off the bike. And then and he also ran 28:30 on the track weekend after racing the World Series in San Diego 2013. So, I mean, him, he's one of the quickest runners on the bike. He's also got like a close to 400 FTP on the bike for cycling, and he can also swim like a 16 or 1500 meters. So I think from that side, you could probably call, him one of the top. And I think another person is actually Vincent Louis as well. If you put all his times together, he's got one of the quickest running splits on the track. I think for 800 as well, he did like a 148 or something, a 147, 800 on the track. And so his running pedigree is extremely good. Swimming, he, one of the top swimmers as well. And on the bike, he's got the same, also FTP close to towards 400.
Yeah.
So if you look at it from stats, that side, I think the last few months or so, you've started to see a lot more stats than you've ever seen just because there's no racing. So things like Strava and people running races in their back garden and people, trying to keep themselves entertained has become a lot more of a priority currently.
Yeah. And Richard, how long or when did you meet Rachel? And was it love at first sight?
Yeah, I think it was love at first Facebook view probably, but I think the 21st century life, it's with traveling and all that, you don't, we're always racing and always traveling, so there's no time for, like, I'm always focused on what I'm doing, so there's no relationship is not really a thing. I'm like, I'm racing, that's it. Not looking for anyone. And Rachel ended up coming to train in Potchefstroom actually as well, and there was a race in Bloberg, so there was the ITU African Cup race in Bloberg for a few years, which was probably one of the most picturesque triathlon venues that there's been in South Africa. Table Mountain in the background and everything. The water was freezing cold, which is always isn't in Bloberg. But we kind of met there, and from there we ended up getting under the same coach eventually. And we ended up spending a lot of time together because, I think when you're on the international circuit, you can't just, pop in for a cup of tea during the week type of thing and you get to know someone. Traveling from venue to venue, and ended up going from no time to spending like weeks together at the start. And then we went on a camp together, and it was like a month-long camp, and we were staying together, and that was how we got to know each other from the start.
Sure. Okay.
So really far, really into the deep end. There was no like, oh, do you want another date type of thing. It's like, no, we're staying together for a month. Just
permanent date.
That's permanent date, and you get to know each other over the months, so it was it was quite interesting. Getting to know each other. I think that was one interesting thing. It's you got to get to know somebody first, and that takes a year. Well, for me, it takes about a year or so to actually get to know, or two to actually get to know someone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, if you think you can know somebody after like a couple of weeks, that's not a. It's a lot of bad things that come out that you haven't seen before after some time.
It's going to end badly.
Yeah.
And a little bit back to your career. So, I mean, you've had some amazing results. You've won races. You've got silver at the Commonwealth Games in the mixed and bronze in the men's triathlon. What's been the moment of your career to date that you look back and think, bloody hell, that was cool?
Okay, I think there's a few different moments. So there's like a personal achievement, which actually wasn't winning a race, which is one of them was, but winning Hamburg with a sprint against Javier Gomez in the picture behind you, 2012. Kind of the first year I started to travel internationally properly for triathlon as a pro. Got on 3 podiums like the first few races that I raced, and I kind of thought like, wow, I've made my first massive earnings of my career. It's like a 22-year-old. That was quite a big moment. It was all of a sudden, it was the race before the Olympics as well, which is like the worst race to win, because then everyone thinks now you're going to win Olympics. Well, this was a 5K, it's a 50-minute race. Another one's a 2-hour race, and there were no Brownlees, and I think Mario was there. And so it was, I always put it into perspective. So obviously know that is a certain circumstance, and obviously the Olympics is something completely different. I didn't even have Olympics on the radar at the start of the year. I didn't even think like, oh, I could go to the Olympics. I literally got told like a month before, Richard, you're going to the Olympics. Okay, great, cool. So it was, okay, cool, off you go, do whatever you can type of thing, and I think a lot of people think you have a lot more planning, a lot of structure. I think, I was on my own kind of figuring out where can I live, who can I train with, and a very different approach compared to some other countries where they have like their training camps and organized, and their training months in advance, and, finance covered. And, it's a real different thing compared to, coming from a South African side of things to an international side of things. So I think that was, one of the big things, and also winning your first Olympic distance race. So I've always wanted to win an Olympic. I won 2 sprint distance races, and then I was thinking, now I need to win an Olympic. That's the next. And with a new coach was it last year, the year before, 2 years ago, I won Leeds in front of all the Brownlees home crowd support, which was could not be better. You know, I think
absolutely.
The place that I could win one would be in the UK. I've got a lot of British supporters, so it was great to put it out there and to run. I mean, I went out at the start of the run. I did the team relay 2 days before. 2 or 3 days before, I did the team relay for South Africa in Nottingham. And I thought, like, this is maybe not the best thing to do because none of the other top guys are doing this team relay. Horrible weather. We didn't have the best performance, really. And I was really in a negative hole. I was like, the season's going to the toilet. And then all of a sudden, we get onto the I have worst swim in my career almost in Leeds. We come out, I get on the bike. I'm like, okay, well, let's make something of this race. You know, can't get any worse now. And before I know it, we managed to catch the group with 1 lap to go on the bike. We catch the front group on the bike. So we've been burying ourselves for 50 minutes. We catch the front group. I think, yeah, we're in the front group. The start of the run, I literally went out and then I thought, okay, the guys will catch me. I'm like, and then I look and I come through like 3K. I think no one's caught me yet. I thought, what's going on? You know, somebody's got to catch me. And I went out kind of at the same pace that I did the mile in the team relay. I kind of went out the same pace in the 10K. I thought, let me just go out at like 2:40, 2:45. And see what I can make from it. And went out and they didn't catch me. And then about 7 or 8K through, I thought, I've still got 20 seconds. I thought, yes, I could win this. So I just got to keep going, you know. I've got like 4K left or 3K left to see whatever I can dig out. And Mario started coming back at me with about 2Ks to go. And my coach saying, it's down to 8 seconds. I thought, uh-oh. Mario's coming for me. And so I literally had to bury myself at about 2Ks to make sure that I had like enough gap. On the run, because obviously it comes down to the last, you know, if you're useless in the last K, you're going to lose it. So I kind of held on and then I won my first World Series race there in Leeds. So that was pretty much my biggest, I would say, one of my biggest thing, because I always thought like, well, you can prove it on 5, you can kind of get away being quick, but to do 10, you've actually got to be a really good runner. And
nothing better than beating the Palms in England.
No, you can't take. I mean, there's nothing better than that. I mean, that's like if you think about the rugby, if you think about if you take them down in their own country, that's that's pretty good.
And Rich, just in closing, we chatted to Gillian Sanders a couple of weeks ago, and she's obviously targeting Olympics, but also the mixed relay again for the Olympics. Is that on the target for you as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think the team relay, I mean, we've featured well in team relays before. I mean, we got a medal at the Commonwealth Games before as well. And we had our first, like, we were in the race until, I mean, a lot of the time, I don't want to say our team relay kind of sucks, but, you know, we do kind of go for the minor places most of the time. But when it comes together, we can actually be in the mix. So in Hamburg, the one year, we were actually in the mix until, like, kind of through the third leg. And so we were still in the mix. I thought, well, you know, if it comes down to we can be in the mix the whole time, there's a good chance we could do well. And it always comes down to a sprint in the team relay. Team relay is sprinting. It's a mile run, so it's all out. And so, yeah, it's I think that, you know, it's definitely something I'm focusing on. And obviously, like, I mean, currently now the focus is just to stay fit and do some training, really. It's you know, we don't know when the next race is really going to be. You know, you don't know if there's going to be a second wave of the corona coming through in a couple of months. So you got to stay realistic a little bit, set different goals and have some fun. And I think I was thinking of the next goal is probably going to be a mile. I think that I need to beat my father's mile time because I've taken his 5K. I took his 5K time officially this weekend, which was I'm pretty pleased with. And my father said, don't injure yourself, do some proper training before the mile race. I said, okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. We might live stream the mile race. So I'm going to try and go under 4 for a mile on the road.
Certainly live stream that for sure.
Yeah, I think I had a few people ask for the live stream and say, well, we don't have data here. We got to go and first get I don't even have a SIM card I do have a SIM card, but I don't know. I'm pretty cheapskate when it comes to these things. So I don't have data, but we'll definitely live. It's only, 4 minutes hopefully. So that's like 4 laps on the track. It's under 60 seconds, and then 10 meters. I said, okay, that put a lot into perspective. Okay, well, that's it's like under 2:30. I thought that's definitely got to do some training for that.
But there's got to be incentive for wanting to beat Dad's time.
No, I think
this-
my dad's got a 350, 347 1500.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went under, I think he went 359 or something for the mile. So I'm like, well, I've got to go better than 359 for the mile, which is gonna be tricky. And I think a lot of I've also had a lot of hate from a lot of people that think that my thing is real bogus. My 5K time is bogus, that I can't go under 14. And
yeah.
I don't think people have done research, but Mario, I always wanted to go under. I had this fixation now with going under 14 for the last 5 years. It was actually, my plan was to do it in a triathlon, was to go under 14. So after I'd done 20K bike and then run a sub 14. Because Mario did it in, I don't know which race it was, we were in 13:55. And when I thought he did it before me, and I thought, you Blixen, you ran under 14 before I did in a triathlon.
That's so quick.
So I think that's the pinnacle. I think some of the times you run sub 30 on a 10K. And then usually you go out and the legs are a bit tired from 40K of hard riding. And so, it's you kind of got to get into your stride, and then the race obviously picks up as the Ks go on. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I always wanted to see how fast I can run. So one day when I'm finished with triathlon, I want to actually lose my shoulders because I'm 72 kilos.
Yeah.
Try and go that speed at over 70 kilos is put down some big watts. But I think if I'm going to be 65 or 67 kilos, somewhere around there, then I'll be in my peak for running. But I think it's interesting to see, because some triathletes, I think Gwen Jorgensen and some other athletes have gone, they don't realize what the cycling actually does for your running. It's very interesting, because it's all cardio. So if you have a really good cardio capacity and you're an efficient runner, then you can run fast. But if you actually miss the other parts, you can actually lose out on running. So it's
completely
interesting balance.
Yeah. Richard, it's been excellent chatting to you today on Sport SA Daily Diary. Thank you so much for your time. Could chat all afternoon about running and cycling. Certainly not the swimming bit. But stay strong there in Holland, and good luck being newly married, especially in lockdown. Can't be too easy. But yeah, good luck. And I can only imagine what the Murray babies are going to be. Jeepers, world champion triathletes for sure.
We just thought about that yesterday. They're like, oh yes, we're gonna bring them up somewhere in Kenya or something like that.
Certainly Olympic champions. But yeah, awesome. Thanks for the time, man.
Thanks. Go well. Have all the best.
Bye. Catch us again tomorrow on Sport SA Daily Diary, where we'll be chatting to the man behind the drop goal in '95, Joel Stransky.